In the brutal summer of 1872, a desperate rancher stumbled into Dusty Creek's market square, clutching a dying infant to his chest. His baby girl hadn't eaten in 3 days. Every woman with milk turned away. Every door slammed shut. "Please," he begged, falling to his knees in the dust. "She's dying. Someone. Anyone." The crowd laughed. They actually laughed. Then one woman stepped forward, the very woman this town had spent 2 years destroying. What happened next would shatter everything Dusty Creek believed about worth, redemption, and a mother's fierce love. Follow this story to the end. Subscribe now and comment what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this journey travels. Abigail Thornton heard the commotion before she saw it. She kept her head down, her hands busy arranging the last of her honey biscuits on the worn wooden table. The corner spot. The dusty spot. The spot furthest from the well where respectable women gathered to gossip and laugh. 2 years of exile had taught her the rules. Don't look up. Don't speak first. Don't remind them you exist. 2 biscuits. Mrs. Ashworth's voice cut through the summer heat like a blade. The preacher's wife dropped coins on the table without glancing at Abby's face. "And don't touch them with your hands. Use the cloth." "Yes, ma'am." Abby wrapped the biscuits carefully, her movements precise. She'd learned that too. Make yourself useful. Make yourself small. Make yourself forgettable. Mrs. Ashworth snatched the bundle and walked away without another word. No thank you, no acknowledgement. Just the swish of her fine cotton dress and the click of her polished boots retreating toward the other women. Abby swept the coins into her apron pocket and resumed her stillness. The July sun beat down mercilessly on Dusty Creek's market square. Sweat trickled down Abby's back, soaking into her faded calico dress. The same dress she'd mended so many times, the original pattern had become a ghost of itself. The fabric strained across her chest and hips, a constant reminder of why this town had decided she didn't deserve kindness. 30 years old, a widow, childless, and fat. That last one seemed to matter most to the people of Dusty Creek. "Did you hear about the Sullivan wedding?" Martha Jennings' voice carried from the fabric merchant's stall. "Hannah's dress took 12 yards of silk." 12. "Well, she's got the figure for it," someone replied, and laughter rippled through the group of women. "Not like some people who'd need 20 yards just for the bodice." More laughter. Abby didn't need to look to know they were glancing her way. She'd stopped feeling the sting of it months ago. Or at least she'd stopped letting it show. Her husband Thomas had died in the Morrison mine collapse 18 months ago, crushed under 1,000 tons of rock, along with 32 other men. Abby had been 4 months pregnant when they brought her his wedding ring and a company check for $50. The shock had taken the baby 3 days later. She killed it. The whispers started almost immediately. Too much weight on her frame. Her body couldn't handle a child. Thomas knew what he was getting into marrying a woman like that. God's will. Some women aren't meant to be mothers. Abby had buried her husband and her unborn child in the same week. She'd expected the town's sympathy to last at least through the funeral. It lasted exactly until the preacher said amen. After that came the whispers, the sideways glances, the invitations that stopped coming, the quilting circles that suddenly had no room, the church pews that emptied when she sat down. Dusty Creek had decided Abigail Thornton was cursed. Unworthy. A cautionary tale mothers told their daughters about letting yourself go. So Abby learned to bake. Learned to turn flour and honey and butter into something people wanted badly enough to buy from someone they despised. Learned to exist in the spaces between their contempt. The commotion grew louder. Abby finally lifted her head. A man had stumbled into the center of the square. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing rancher's clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. Dark hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. Eyes wild with something beyond exhaustion. And in his arms, wrapped in a dirty blanket, was a baby. The infant's cry cut through the summer air like broken glass. Thin. Weak. The sound of life slipping away. "Please." The man's voice cracked. He turned in a slow circle, searching the faces of the crowd that had instinctively pulled back from him. "Please, someone. She needs milk. She needs a wet nurse. She's dying." Abby's hands froze on her table. She knew that cry, had heard it once before in her nightmares, in the quiet hours when she couldn't stop imagining what sounds her own baby might have made in those final moments. Samuel McCrae. Thomas Green, the blacksmith, stepped forward with his arms crossed. "You got some nerve showing your face here." "I'm not here for me, McCrae." Abby remembered the name now, the rancher from High Valley, the man whose wife had died in childbirth 3 weeks ago. "I'm here for my daughter, please. She won't take cow's milk. She's starving." "That ain't our problem." Green's voice carried the weight of community judgment. "You know what folks say about you, about what really happened to Eleanor." "Nothing happened to Eleanor except childbirth." McCrae's voice rose sharp with desperation. "She died bringing Lily into this world. That's all. That's the only truth there is." "Then why won't you let anyone on your land? Why do you keep everyone away?" Someone called from the back. "What are you hiding up there?" Abby watched McCrae's jaw clench. His arms tightened around the bundle in his arms. "I ain't hiding anything. I'm trying to keep my daughter alive." He turned toward the group of women near the fabric merchant's stall. Abby saw him fix his gaze on Hannah Carter, the young mother with an infant of her own. "Mrs. Carter, please." He took a step toward her. "I know you're nursing your boy. I can pay. Whatever you want. Name your price." Hannah's face went pale. She clutched her own baby closer to her chest and stepped back. Her husband moved between them immediately. "Get away from my wife, McCrae. I ain't asking for anything improper. I just need... You need to leave." William Carter's hand moved to the pistol at his hip. "Now." McCrae stopped. For a long moment, he just stood there, his chest heaving, his daughter's weak cries filling the terrible silence. Then he did something Abby had never seen a man do in public. He fell to his knees. "Please." The word tore from his throat. "I'm begging you. All of you. She's just a baby. She hasn't done anything wrong. She hasn't hurt anyone. Please. Someone. Anyone." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Abby saw women look away, saw men study their boots, saw the collective decision being made in real time. Nobody was going to help. The baby's cry weakened, became more of a whimper. And then Mrs. Cordelia Ashworth laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh, not obviously. It was the refined, pitying laugh of a woman who'd perfected the art of kindness that cut deeper than any knife. "Perhaps," she said, her voice carrying across the square, "you should ask the Thornton woman. After all, she's the only one here with nothing to lose." The crowd's attention swung toward Abby's corner. She felt every eye in the square land on her, felt the weight of their collective judgment pressing down like a physical force. "The Thornton woman," someone snorted. "She couldn't keep her own baby alive. Even if she could help, which she can't. It's been nearly 2 years. Why would anyone trust her with an infant?" More laughter. Softer this time, but somehow worse. "Her milk dried up months ago. Everyone knows that. And look at her. You think a body like that produces anything healthy?" Abby's face burned. Her hands gripped the edge of her table until her knuckles went white. Stay quiet. Stay small. Stay invisible. The rules she'd followed for 2 years screamed in her head. But that sound, that terrible weakening cry, she knew that sound. Samuel McCrae had stopped turning. He was looking directly at her now, his eyes meeting hers across the crowded square. In his gaze, Abby saw something that cut through all the shame and fear. Recognition. Not of who she was, but of what she was. Another person the world had thrown away. Another soul carrying unbearable loss. The baby whimpered again. Something cracked open inside Abby's chest. Her feet moved before her mind could stop them. The crowd parted as she stepped away from her table. Their laughter died into shocked silence. She'd broken the unspoken rule she'd claimed space demanded to be seen, inserted herself into a moment where her presence wasn't wanted. She walked toward Samuel McCrae with her head up. Each step felt like defiance, like revolution, like choosing herself for the first time in 2 years. When she reached him, she stopped close enough to see the red veins in his eyes, the stubble darkening his jaw, the trembling in his arms. "Let me see her." McCrae's breath caught. "You can help." "I don't know." Abby's honesty surprised even herself. "I don't know if I have anything left to give, but I'm willing to try." "That's all I'm asking." His voice broke. "Just try, please. Just try." He shifted the blanket. The baby girl was impossibly tiny. Her skin had a grayish tinge that spoke of starvation. Dark hair, wispy and sparse, framed a face contorted with suffering. Her eyes flickered open for just a moment. Deep blue, unfocused, fading. Her lips moved weakly, searching for something that hadn't come. Abby's body responded before her mind caught up. Deep in her chest, she felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. A tingling warmth, a sense of fullness. Her breasts, which had dried up in the weeks after her loss, suddenly felt heavy, tender, alive. "We need somewhere private," Abby said quietly. "I have a room at the boarding house," McCrae said. "I was planning to head back to the ranch today, but no." Abby shook her head. "Mrs. Patterson would never allow me in a male boarder's room. We'll go to mine." "She'll charge you," Mrs. Ashworth called out, her voice sharp with false concern. "You know Patterson charges extra for impropriety." Abby turned and met the preacher's wife's eyes directly, for the first time in 2 years. "Then she'll charge me. Some things are worth the cost." The walk to the boarding house took 5 minutes. It felt like crossing continents. Behind them, the market erupted into whispers. Abby could hear the story already being shaped: the desperate rancher and the fallen widow, their inappropriate association, the scandal of it all. She didn't look back. Mrs. Patterson waited at the boarding house entrance, her thin arms crossed her narrow face, promising trouble. "I don't allow men in my female tenants' rooms, Abigail. You know the rules." "The baby is dying." Abby's voice came out steady, surprising her. "We need privacy. I'll pay whatever you ask." Mrs. Patterson's eyes narrowed, calculating. $5. The amount was obscene. More than a week of biscuit sales. "I'll pay it," McCrae said, reaching for his pocket. "No." Abby kept her eyes on the landlady. "This is my choice, my responsibility." She pulled the pouch from her apron, counted out coins that represented meals she wouldn't eat, security she wouldn't have. Mrs. Patterson snatched them with practiced efficiency. "1 hour. After that, I charge by the half hour." Abby didn't respond. She turned and led McCrae up the narrow stairs to her room. Her small world. 8 feet by 10 feet of survival. The room held a narrow bed, a small table, her mixing bowl and wooden spoon, a single window looking out onto the alley. Everything she owned fit into a trunk at the foot of the bed. Abby closed the door behind them. McCrae stood in the center of the room, still holding his daughter, looking lost in a way that went beyond physical displacement. "I don't know how to help her," he whispered. "I've tried everything. Cow's milk, goat's milk, sugar water. Nothing works. She just keeps getting weaker, and His voice broke. "I can't lose her. She's all I have left of Eleanor. She's all I have left of anything good." Abby moved to the bed, settling herself against the headboard. Her hands trembled as she began unbuttoning the front of her dress. "Bring her here." McCrae approached like a man walking on thin ice. He knelt beside the bed, easing the baby into Abby's outstretched arms. The weight of her was nothing. 4 pounds, maybe less. Abby could feel every tiny bone, every desperate breath. The baby's eyes opened, focusing on Abby's face with an intensity that seemed impossible from something so fragile. "Hello, little one," Abby whispered. "Let's see if we can help each other." She adjusted her dress, exposing her breast. The tingling sensation had grown stronger, accompanied now by actual wetness. Milk. After 2 years of drought, her body was producing milk. The baby turned her head, searching with instinct older than thought. Abby guided her, positioned her, waited. For a long moment, nothing happened. The baby's mouth opened and closed against Abby's skin. Weak movements that accomplished nothing. Of course this wouldn't work. Of course her body would fail again. Of course she'd offered hope she couldn't deliver. Then the latch came. The baby's mouth sealed around Abby's nipple with sudden, desperate strength. The pull was sharp, almost painful after so long. But Abby didn't flinch. She felt the milk let down, a sensation like nothing else, like opening a door that had been locked for years. The baby drank. McCrae made a sound, half sob, half laugh, and buried his face against the mattress. His shoulders shook with the force of relief too powerful to contain. Abby kept her eyes on the infant in her arms, watching color slowly return to gray skin, watching frantic desperation ease into focused purpose. Minutes passed. The room filled with the only sound that mattered, the soft, rhythmic pattern of suckling and swallowing, of life being sustained, of connection being forged through the most primal act of motherhood. "What's her name?" Abby asked softly. McCrae lifted his head. His face was wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. "Lily. Eleanor wanted to name her Lily." His voice roughened. "She said every lily grows from the mud. That beauty can come from the darkest places." Lily. Abby looked down at the infant, whose eyes had drifted closed now, whose breathing had deepened into something approaching peace. "It suits her." "She is." McCrae shifted, settling from kneeling to sitting on the floor beside the bed. "Just like her mother was. Eleanor fought so hard. For 3 days she fought. The midwife said the baby was positioned wrong, that Eleanor's body wasn't strong enough, that it was hopeless from the start. But Eleanor wouldn't give up." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "She managed half of what she set out to do." Abby felt the weight of his grief like a presence in the small room. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Everyone says that." Bitterness crept into McCrae's tone. "But no one actually cares. They're too busy deciding I'm responsible. That I did something wrong. That I worked her too hard, or didn't feed her right, or somehow caused what happened. The rumors about what really happened are lies." McCrae's eyes met hers, fierce with anger and exhaustion. "Eleanor died in childbirth. Nothing more, nothing less. But the doc from Cheyenne came out a week after, checked on Lily, and must have said something in town, because after that the whispers got worse. Now they think I hurt Eleanor. Think I'm keeping Lily isolated because I'm doing the same to her. Is that why they wouldn't help you today? That's why they'd rather let her die than risk being associated with me." His jaw tightened. "Lily's innocent. She's never done anything wrong. But they'd watch her starve rather than offer a drop of human kindness." Abby understood that particular cruelty. Had lived it for 2 years. The world is very good at punishing people for things beyond their control. McCrae's gaze sharpened. "What did you do to earn the way they treat you?" The question should have felt invasive. But sitting here, his daughter feeding from her body, their shared exile connecting them in ways that transcended normal social boundaries, Abby found she didn't mind answering. "I had a baby who died before he was born. A husband who couldn't survive losing him." She paused, her hand gentle on Lily's back. "And a body that doesn't fit what this town thinks a woman should look like. None of that's your fault." "No. But knowing something isn't your fault doesn't change how the world treats you for it." Lily's sucking began to slow, her tiny body growing heavy with contentment. Abby gently shifted her to the other breast, and the baby latched again, with less desperation this time. McCrae watched them with an expression Abby couldn't fully read. "How long has it been since you lost your baby?" 18 months? And your body still. I mean, you can still. I didn't know I could. Abby's voice was quiet with wonder. I haven't been able to since a few weeks after I lost him. I thought that part of me was dead. What changed? I don't know. She looked down at Lily, at this tiny life, depending entirely on what Abby could give. Maybe my body remembered what my mind tried to forget. Maybe it was waiting for someone who needed it. McCrae was silent for a long moment. I have to get back to the ranch, he finally said. I've got livestock that need tending fences down, work I've been neglecting for weeks, trying to keep her alive on sugar water and hope. He stood running his hands through his disheveled hair. But I can't take her back. Not now. Not when she finally... He stopped, swallowed hard. How often does she need to eat? Every few hours, probably more frequently given how weak she's been. She'll need constant care for the next several weeks at minimum. I can't stay in town that long. I can't... McCrae turned to face her, and Abby saw desperation warring with something else in his expression. I can't ask you to... You're not asking, Abby said softly. I'm offering. What? Bring me to the ranch. The words came out before she could second-guess them. Let me help Lily until she's strong enough to survive without. Let me do this one thing right. McCrae stared at her. You understand what you're saying. The gossip alone will destroy whatever reputation you have left. And Mrs. Patterson, she'll never let you back. You'll lose your room, your livelihood, everything. What livelihood? Abby's laugh held no humor. Selling biscuits to people who can't stand to look at me. Living in a room that costs me everything I earn. That's not a life, Mr. McCrae. That's just existing. But if Lily doesn't make it anyway, if this doesn't work, you'll have given up everything for nothing. And if I don't try, I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I let another baby die because I was too afraid to risk my own comfort. Abby met his eyes directly. I can't do that again. I can't carry that weight twice. Lily chose that moment to finish feeding her mouth, releasing Abby's breast with a soft pop. Her face had relaxed completely into sleep. Her skin already held more color than it had an hour ago. I can manage whatever you need, McCrae said, his voice rough. I can pay for... I don't want your money. Abby gently placed Lily against her shoulder, patting her back until a tiny burp emerged. Room and board, nothing more. This isn't about transaction. This is about giving her a chance she wouldn't have otherwise. The door banged open, Mrs. Patterson stood in the doorway, her eyes immediately finding the scene before her. Abby on the bed with her dress half unbuttoned. McCrae standing close, a baby between them. Well? The landlady's voice dripped with satisfaction. I knew what kind of woman you really were, Abigail Thornton, but I didn't expect you to prove it quite so quickly. It's not what you think, McCrae started. I don't care what it is. Mrs. Patterson smiled thinly. I want her out. Tonight. I won't have women of that sort under my roof. Mrs. Patterson. Don't bother arguing. Abby stood still, holding Lily. Her voice was steady despite the chaos inside her. I'll be gone within the hour. The landlady's eyes widened slightly. She'd expected tears begging the usual responses her cruelty provoked. Abby gave her none of that. My trunk is already packed. I've been living prepared to leave since the day you doubled my rent. She turned to McCrae. I believe you mentioned needing to get back to your ranch. McCrae stared at her for a moment, something shifting in his expression. Then his jaw set with determination. I'll have the wagon ready in 20 minutes. He moved past Mrs. Patterson without acknowledging her, his boots heavy on the stairs. The landlady remained in the doorway, her satisfied expression curdling into something closer to uncertainty. You'll regret this, she said. Running off with a man like that. No respectable town will take you in. No decent person will have anything to do with you. Abby settled Lily more comfortably against her shoulder. Mrs. Patterson, I've spent 2 years being invisible in this town. 2 years selling biscuits to people who hate me. 2 years paying you double rent because you could get away with charging it." She picked up her trunk with her free hand, surprising herself with the ease of it. If that's respectability, I don't want it. She walked past the landlady down the stairs out the front door of the boarding house that had been her prison for 2 years. The afternoon sun hit her face hot and bright. For the first time in 18 months, it felt like freedom. McCrae was already pulling the wagon around 2 workhorses, stamping impatiently in the summer heat. He'd lined the bed with hay and blankets, creating a spot where she could sit with Lily during the journey. "You're sure about this?" he asked as he helped her up into the wagon. "Last chance to change your mind." Abby looked back at the boarding house, at Mrs. Patterson watching from the doorway, at the market square in the distance where people were surely still discussing the scandal of what had just happened. Then she looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully against her chest, finally safe, after days of fighting to survive. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." McCrae nodded once, climbed onto the driver's seat, and snapped the reins. The wagon lurched forward. As they rolled past the last buildings of Dusty Creek, past the church where she'd been silently excluded, past the general store where women pretended not to see her, Abby felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. Fragile. Uncertain. But real. Behind her, the town grew smaller. Ahead, the open road stretched toward mountains painted gold and purple by the summer sun. And in her arms, a baby breathed steadily, held close by a woman the world had declared worthless, a woman who was just beginning to discover she might be worth everything. The wagon hit a rut, and Abby tightened her grip on Lily. "Sorry," McCrae called over his shoulder. "Road ain't been maintained since the spring floods." "We're fine." They'd been traveling for nearly 2 hours. The sun had begun its slow descent, painting everything in shades of amber. Lily had fed twice during the journey, each time latching with more strength than the last. McCrae hadn't spoken much since they'd left Dusty Creek. His shoulders remained rigid, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Mr. McCrae?" "Sam." He didn't turn around. "If you're going to be living under my roof caring for my daughter, you might as well call me Sam." "Sam, then." Abby shifted Lily to her other arm. "What should I expect when we arrive?" "Expect?" "The ranch. The house. What condition is it in?" His silence lasted long enough that Abby thought he might not answer. "Bad," he finally said. "I've been trying to keep Lily alive for 3 weeks. Everything else has gone to hell." "I can help with that too. That ain't what I'm paying you for." "You're not paying me at all, remember, room and board." Sam's hands tightened on the reins. "I don't like owing people." "Then don't think of it as owing. Think of it as partnership." He turned then just enough to look at her over his shoulder. Something flickered in his expression, surprise maybe, or something deeper. Partnership. 2 people working toward the same goal. Keeping Lily alive. Getting your ranch back in order. Surviving whatever Dusty Creek decides to throw at us. Abby met his gaze steadily. "That's partnership." Sam turned back to the road, but Abby noticed his shoulders had loosened slightly. The valley appeared without warning, a sudden opening in the hills that took Abby's breath away, despite her determination not to be impressed. A creek cut through the center, catching the fading sunlight. A cabin sat at the valley's heart-solid pine logs, with a stone chimney. But even from this distance, she could see the signs of neglect. Fences sagging, a barn door hanging crooked, weeds choking what must have been a garden. "I know it's rough," Sam said, pulling the wagon to a stop. "It's beautiful." He looked at her sharply. "The land," Abby clarified. "The bones of the place. The rest can be fixed." "Eleanor used to say something like that." His voice had gone rough. "Said every broken thing could be mended if you cared enough to try." Lily stirred in Abby's arms, making small sounds that would soon become hungry cries. "Show me inside. She'll need to eat again soon." The cabin's interior matched what she'd expected: dishes piled beside the wash basin floor, unswept dust coating every surface. But it was solid, functional, a home that had simply stopped being tended. "The bedroom's through there." Sam gestured to a door on the left. "I've been sleeping in the smaller room with Lily. You can have the main room. Your room where you and Eleanor—" "I can't sleep in there anyway." He cut her off, his jaw tight. "Haven't been able to since she died. You'd be doing me a favor." Lily's cries began in earnest. Abby moved to the rocking chair by the cold fireplace. A woman's chair she realized sized for someone smaller than Sam. Eleanor's chair. She settled into it and began feeding Lily, watching Sam watch them with an expression caught between grief and wonder. "I'll see to the horses," he said abruptly, and fled through the door. Abby let him go. Some pain needed space to breathe. She was still in the rocking chair when he returned an hour later. Lily had fallen asleep, milk-drunk and peaceful. Abby hadn't moved, not wanting to disturb her. Sam stopped in the doorway. "You look like you belong there." "Sam? I don't mean—" He shook his head, moving to the cold stove. "I ain't trying to be improper. Just stating fact." Eleanor sat in that chair every evening, said it was the best spot for catching the last light through the window. What was she like? The question surprised them both. Sam's hands stilled on the stove. For a long moment, Abby thought she'd overstepped. "Fierce," he said finally. "Small, but fierce. She could outshoot me 6 days out of 7 and never let me forget it." "You loved her. Still do." No hesitation. "Always will." "That's how it should be." Sam turned to look at her. "Your husband, did you love him?" "I did." Abby stroked Lily's downy hair. "Thomas was kind, patient. He never once made me feel less than because of—" She gestured at herself. "This. Because of what? My size, Sam. You don't have to pretend you haven't noticed." "I've noticed." His voice was matter-of-fact. "I've also noticed you walked into a crowd that hated you to save a dying baby. I've noticed you gave up everything you had for a stranger's child. I've noticed you're sitting in my dead wife's chair feeding my daughter like it's the most natural thing in the world." He crouched to build a fire in the stove. "What I ain't noticed is anything wrong with how you look." Abby's throat tightened. The people of Dusty Creek would disagree. "The people of Dusty Creek can go to hell." Despite everything, Abby laughed. Sam's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "I'll make us something to eat," he said. "It won't be fancy. I can cook. You're feeding my daughter. She's asleep now. I can—" "Abigail." He said her name carefully, like he was trying it out. "You've done enough for one day. Let someone take care of you for once." Abby stared at him. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had said those words to her. The first week passed in a blur of feeding and cleaning and slowly bringing order to chaos. Abby fell into rhythms she hadn't known she remembered. Rising before dawn to feed Lily, making breakfast while Sam tended the animals, scrubbing floors and washing dishes and restoring the cabin to something approaching livable, while he repaired fences and caught up on work he'd been neglecting. Lily thrived. By the 4th day, she'd gained visible weight. Her cries grew stronger, more insistent, the demands of a healthy baby rather than the whimpers of one fading away. "She's different," Sam said one evening, watching Abby feed Lily in the rocking chair that had somehow become hers. "She was so quiet before, so weak. I thought that was just how babies were." "She was dying, Sam. Babies aren't quiet when they're healthy." "I didn't know." His voice cracked. "Eleanor would have known. She read all those books about babies and birthing. I didn't pay attention. Thought I had time to learn." "You're learning now. Because of you." Abby looked up from Lily's face to find Sam watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I mean it," he said. "I ain't good with words. Eleanor was the one who could talk pretty, make people understand things. But you should know, what you're doing here, it matters. You matter. Sam, I know you think you're just helping with the baby, just earning your keep, but that ain't how I see it. He stood abruptly, moving to the window. You've brought life back to this house, not just for Lily, for me. The confession hung in the air between them. Before Abby could respond, hoofbeats sounded outside. Sam's whole body tensed. His hand moved to the rifle mounted above the door. Stay here. Keep Lily quiet if you can. He stepped onto the porch before Abby could argue. She heard voices, Sam's low and wary, and another man's louder, demanding. Got some nerve, McCrae, bringing that woman out here. What business is it of yours, Henderson? The whole territory's business. Folks are talking, saying things. The preacher's wife is fit to be tied. Mrs. Ashworth can worry about her own household. She ain't worried. She's organizing. Henderson's voice carried through the walls. Claims she's got a moral obligation to protect that innocent baby from unsuitable influences. Abby's blood ran cold. Get off my land. I'm just warning you, McCrae, as a neighbor. She's got half the churchwomen behind her. They're talking about going to the territory judge, filing a petition or something. On what grounds? That you're an unfit father, that you're shacked up with a woman of loose morals, that the baby deserves proper Christian raising. That baby has proper raising. She's got a father who loves her, and a woman who's kept her alive when every Christian in your precious town wanted her dead. I ain't saying I agree with them. I'm saying you'd better be ready. Mrs. Ashworth ain't the type to make threats she don't intend to keep. Silence. Then hoofbeats retreating. Sam came back inside, his face carved from stone. You heard. I heard. Abby clutched Lily closer. Sam, if my being here is putting you at risk, don't. The word came out sharp. Don't you dare offer to leave. If they take her away from you because of me, they ain't taking her anywhere. Sam crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping directly in front of the rocking chair. Listen to me, Abigail. I don't care what Mrs. Ashworth says. I don't care what the whole damn territory says. You saved my daughter's life. You're the only reason she's sleeping peaceful in your arms right now, instead of buried in the ground next to her mother. His voice broke on the last word. If they want to take Lily, they'll have to go through me. And if they want to run you off, they'll have to go through me for that too. Why? The question escaped before Abby could stop it. You barely know me. We met a week ago. I know you fed a dying baby when every other woman in that square would have let her starve. I know you gave up your home, your livelihood, your reputation to help a stranger. I know you've worked yourself ragged this week, getting my house in order while caring for my daughter like she was your own. Sam's eyes were wet. That's enough, knowing Abigail. That's more than enough. Lily stirred between them, making small sounds of contentment. We should get some sleep, Abby said quietly. Tomorrow we can figure out what to do about Mrs. Ashworth. There's nothing to figure out. Sam stepped back, composing himself. Let her file her petitions. Let her bring her judges. We'll show them a healthy baby and a clean house and a partnership that's working. Partnership. You said it yourself. Almost a smile crossed his face. 2 people working toward the same goal. I didn't think you were listening. I listen more than I talk. Another thing Eleanor used to complain about. He moved toward the smaller bedroom, pausing at the door. Thank you, Abigail. For staying. For fighting. Thank you for letting me. The door closed behind him. Abby sat in the rocking chair, Lily warm against her chest, and tried not to think about how much she already had to lose. The second week brought more warnings. A letter arrived from the territorial office. Someone had filed a formal inquiry into the welfare of one Lily McCrae, infant daughter of Samuel McCrae, currently residing with an unmarried woman of questionable character. Sam read it aloud at the breakfast table, his voice growing colder with each word. A hearing has been scheduled for the 23rd day of August before Judge William Hartley. Both parties are required to attend and present evidence regarding the child's living situation. August 23rd. Abby calculated quickly. That's 2 weeks away. 2 weeks to prove we're fit to raise a baby we've already been raising. We'll need witnesses, people who can testify that Lily's healthy, that the household is proper. Who? Sam threw the letter onto the table. Everyone in Dusty Creek hates both of us. Henderson's the only neighbor who'll even speak to me, and he made clear he ain't getting involved. There must be someone. There ain't. Lily began fussing in her cradle, a proper cradle, now carved from pine by Sam's own hands, during the long evenings when he couldn't sleep. Abby lifted her began the familiar routine of feeding. The motion had become as natural as breathing. What about the Hendersons? Not your neighbor, the family who runs the trading post in Pine Ridge. John Henderson's a different family, good people, but they don't know anything about how Lily's being raised. Then we show them, invite them here, let them see. Sam considered this. That might work for proving Lily's healthy, but it won't address the other accusation. What other accusation? That we're... He stopped, color rising in his weathered cheeks. That our arrangement is improper. Abby's hands stilled. They're saying we're... Mrs. Ashworth is implying it, heavily. The petition suggests an unmarried woman living in a bachelor's home can only mean one thing. That's absurd. I have my own room. We barely... I know. But to a judge who doesn't know us, who only hears what Mrs. Ashworth wants him to hear. The implication settled over Abby like a weight. What do we do? Sam was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. There's one way to take away their ammunition. What bias? We get married. Abby's breath stopped. Sam. Hear me out. He stood, began pacing the small room. I ain't proposing romance. I ain't pretending feelings I don't have. But if we're married, they can't claim impropriety. A man living with his wife and daughter is the most respectable arrangement there is. You can't marry someone just to win a custody hearing. Why not people marry for land all the time, for money, for family alliances? He stopped pacing, faced her directly. We'd be marrying for Lily, to protect her. Is that worse? What about love? What about love? The word came out rough. I loved Eleanor, still do. Probably always will. But she's gone, and Lily's here, and Lily needs protecting more than I need to keep my dead wife's memory on a pedestal. Abby stared at him. You don't know me. I know enough. You might meet someone else. Someone you could actually love. Someone who looks different. Sam cut in. Is that what you're trying to say? Someone prettier, thinner. More acceptable to people whose opinions I don't give a damn about. Sam? No. He crossed to where she sat, crouched down so their eyes were level. Abigail, I ain't a man who cares about what the world thinks women should look like. I care about what's inside. I care about actions. And your actions have shown me more about who you are than a lifetime of looking ever could. Lily finished feeding, pulling away with a satisfied sigh. Abby held her close, buying time to think. If I say yes, and I'm not saying yes yet, what would that look like? The marriage, I mean. Whatever you want it to look like. Sam remained crouched, his gaze steady. Separate rooms if you prefer. A partnership like you said. Two people working toward the same goal with legal protection neither of us would have otherwise. And if they still try to take Lily, then we fight them as a united front, husband and wife, mother and father. Mother. The word hit Abby like a physical blow. I'm not her mother. Aren't you? Sam's voice gentled. You feed her from your own body. You've stayed up with her every night for 2 weeks. You hold her like she's the most precious thing you've ever touched. What do you call that, if not mothering? Abby felt tears building behind her eyes. I'm afraid. Of what? Of losing her. The confession came out broken. I already lost one baby, Sam. I can't if something happened to Lily. Nothing's going to happen to her. His hand covered hers where it rested on Lily's back. I won't let it. You won't let it. Together we're going to keep her safe. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Maybe not easy, but simple. We do whatever it takes to protect her, including marriage, if that's what's required. Abby looked down at Lily at the baby who'd become her purpose, her redemption, her reason for getting up each morning. Yes. The word came out before she could second-guess it. Sam's breath caught. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Abby met his eyes, saw the relief flooding his features. For Lily, for our partnership, for whatever chance we have of keeping her safe. Sam's hand tightened on hers. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive the hearing. We'll survive. Something that might have been a smile crossed his face. We've survived everything else so far. He stood suddenly, all business. I'll ride to Pine Ridge tomorrow. Find a circuit judge or a minister. We can be married before the hearing, present ourselves as a proper family. What about Mrs. Ashworth? She'll say we only married to avoid scrutiny. She'll say whatever she wants regardless. At least this way we have legal standing to fight back. Lily began to fuss again. Abby stood swaying gently. The way she'd learned calmed her. Sam, there's something you should know before we do this. What? I've been married before, to Thomas. And when he died, when the baby died, people said... She forced herself to continue. People said I killed them both. That my body was too much strain on the pregnancy. That Thomas couldn't bear to live with a woman like me after what happened. Sam's expression didn't change. Thomas fell down a mine shaft. That ain't your fault. He might have, it might have been... Stop. The word was gentle but firm. I know what it's like to carry blame that ain't yours. Eleanor died in childbirth. People say I worked her too hard. Say I didn't care for her properly. Say a dozen things that ain't true but still cut deep. He moved closer. I ain't marrying you despite your past, Abigail. I'm marrying you because of who you are right now. The woman who saved my daughter. The woman who's giving us both a second chance. What if I fail again? What if Lily... She won't. Sam's voice held absolute certainty. You won't. We won't. Lily's fussing had quieted. She'd fallen asleep against Abby's chest, her tiny hand curled into a fist. When you get back from Pine Ridge, Abby said slowly, I'll need a dress, something nicer than what I have. There's a trunk in the barn, Eleanor's things. I was going to give them away eventually, but... He stopped, swallowed. She'd want them used. She'd want you to have whatever you need. I can't wear your dead wife's wedding dress, Sam. Not her wedding dress. But she had other nice things. Things she'd want Lily's mother to have. Lily's mother. The words echoed in Abby's mind long after Sam had gone to check the animals, long after night had fallen, long after she'd settled into the bed that had been Eleanor's. Lily's mother. Maybe she thought as sleep finally claimed her, maybe she could learn to believe it. Sam left for Pine Ridge at dawn. Abby spent the day cleaning, organizing, preparing for the inspection she knew would come. If Mrs. Ashworth was determined to prove unfitness, Abby would give her nothing to find. By late afternoon, the cabin gleamed. Fresh bread cooled on the table. Lily slept peacefully in her cradle after feeding well all day. Then, hoofbeats sounded in the yard. Abby's heart jumped. Sam returning early. But the knock that came at the door wasn't Sam's knock. She opened it to find Hannah Carter standing on the porch, her own infant in her arms, her face pale with nervousness. Mrs. Carter, please. Hannah's voice shook. Please, Mrs. Thornton, I need to speak with you. Miss Thornton, I'm not... Abby stopped. That wouldn't be true much longer. Come in. Hannah stepped inside, her eyes sweeping the clean cabin, landing on Lily's cradle. She's beautiful. The baby, I mean. So much healthier than when your husband threatened to shoot Mr. McCrae for asking for your help. Hannah flinched. I deserve that. You deserve worse. Abby moved to stand between Hannah and Lily's cradle protective instinct, overwhelming courtesy. What do you want? To apologize. Hannah's voice broke. To tell you what I should have told you in the market square. That I wanted to help. That I would have helped if William hadn't, if I'd been brave enough. But you weren't. No, I wasn't. Tears spilled down Hannah's cheeks. And I've thought about it every day since. Every time I feed my own son, I think about that baby crying in the square. About everyone just standing there. About you being the only one who... Why are you here, Mrs. Carter? Hannah straightened, wiping her eyes. Because Mrs. Ashworth is telling everyone you seduced Mr. McCrae, that you planned this whole thing to trap a wealthy rancher into marriage. She's got half the church women believing you're a Jezebel who targeted a grieving widower. Abby's jaw tightened. And you came here to warn me. I came here to offer to testify. Hannah's voice grew stronger. At the hearing, I was there that day. I saw what really happened. I saw you save that baby when everyone else turned away. Why would you risk your husband's anger, your standing in the community? Because I have a son. Hannah held her baby closer. Because every time I look at him, I think about what might have happened if he'd been born with something wrong, if he'd needed help and no one would give it. She met Abby's eyes directly. I can't undo what happened in that square, but I can tell the truth about it, if you'll let me. Abby studied the younger woman's face, saw the genuine remorse, the desperate need to make amends. You should know what you're risking. Your husband might never forgive you. The church women will make your life miserable. I know. And you want to do it anyway. I have to. Hannah's voice was steady now. I have to live with myself, Miss Thornton. And I can't do that if I stay silent while they destroy you for doing what I should have done. Lily chose that moment to wake her cries, demanding attention. Without thinking, Abby lifted her, began the familiar process of feeding. Hannah watched with an expression Abby couldn't quite read. She knows you, Hannah said quietly. Trusts you. That's what a mother looks like. I'm not. Yes, you are. Hannah's voice held quiet conviction. Whatever name you call yourself, you're that baby's mother in every way that matters. The door opened, and Sam walked in. He stopped dead, taking in the scene, Abby feeding Lily. Hannah standing nervously with her own baby, the obvious tension in the room. What's going on? We have an ally, Abby said simply. Mrs. Carter wants to testify at the hearing. She was there that day in the square. Sam's eyes narrowed. Her husband held a gun on me. Her husband isn't here. Hannah lifted her chin. And I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking for myself. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. Not after what happened. But I'm telling you anyway, I saw what I saw. And I'm willing to stand in front of a judge and tell the truth about it. Sam looked at Abby. She nodded slightly. All right, Mrs. Carter. Sam moved to the stove, began building a fire with controlled movements. Tell me exactly what you saw that day, and don't leave anything out. Hannah told him. By the time she finished, the fire was blazing, and Sam's expression had shifted from suspicion to something approaching respect. You'll need to be prepared. Mrs. Ashworth will try to discredit you. I know. She'll say you're lying to curry favor with us. I know. She might turn your own husband against you. Hannah's face tightened, but she didn't waver. I know. Sam studied her for a long moment. All right then. Welcome to the fight. Hannah left as the sun was setting, promising to return in a week with her testimony prepared. Abby watched her go, feeling something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Possibility. You trust her? Sam asked, moving to stand beside her at the window. I trust that she hates herself for what happened that day. Sometimes that's enough. And if she changes her mind, if her husband convinces her to stay silent, Then we fight without her." Abby turned to face him. "But I don't think she will. I think she needs to do this. Needs it for herself as much as for us." Sam nodded slowly. "You understand people, how they think, what drives them. I've spent 2 years watching people from the outside. You learn things when no one thinks you're worth noticing. I notice you." The words hung between them. "Sam, I found a minister," he said abruptly, changing the subject. "Reverend Collins in Pine Ridge. He'll marry us day after tomorrow if we can get there." Day after tomorrow. The hearing's in less than 2 weeks. The sooner we're married, the better. Abby looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully in her cradle now. "Then day after tomorrow it is." Sam's hand found hers. "Whatever happens, Abigail, we face it together." "Agreed." Abby squeezed his hand. "Agreed." Outside, the last light faded from the sky. Inside, 2 people stood at the threshold of a partnership neither had expected, united by a baby, bound by necessity, and slowly discovering that sometimes the most unexpected alliances become the strongest. The fire crackled in the stove. Lily slept on. And somewhere in Dusty Creek, Mrs. Cordelia Ashworth was preparing her next move. The morning of the wedding arrived with a weight that settled in Abby's chest before she even opened her eyes. "You don't have to do this." Sam's voice came from the doorway. He was already dressed, his cleanest shirt pressed, his hair combed back. "Yes, I do." Abby rose from the bed, holding Lily against her shoulder. "We both do. I mean..." He stopped, struggling with words that didn't come easy. "If you've changed your mind, if this feels wrong, I won't hold it against you." "Sam!" Abby crossed the room to stand before him. "I haven't changed my mind. Because of Lily. Because of everything." Something shifted in his expression, something that looked almost like hope. "The wagon's ready. Eleanor's blue dress is in the trunk by the door. I thought..." He cleared his throat. "I thought it might fit." "Thank you." He nodded once and left her to prepare. The dress did fit, not perfectly, but close enough. Eleanor had been smaller than Abby, but she'd also been a practical woman who believed in fabric that could be let out if needed. Abby looked at herself in the small mirror above the washstand. The woman staring back wasn't the invisible creature from Dusty Creek's Market Square. This woman had color in her cheeks, purpose in her eyes, a baby in her arms who trusted her completely. "Let's go get married, Lily," she whispered. Lily cooed in response. The ride to Pine Ridge took 3 hours. Reverend Collins was a small man with kind eyes and hands that trembled slightly when he held the Bible. "Dearly beloved," he began, then stopped, looking at the empty room around them. "Perhaps we should wait for witnesses." "John Henderson's on his way," Sam said. "His wife, too. They agreed to stand for us." "Then we'll wait." The Hendersons arrived 10 minutes later, flushed from rushing. "Sorry we're late," Martha Henderson said, moving to take Lily from Abby's arms. "Let me hold her while you 2 get hitched." Abby hesitated. "It's all right." Martha's voice was gentle. "She'll be fine with me. You focus on becoming Mrs. McCrae." Mrs. McCrae. The name felt strange, impossible, and somehow exactly right. The ceremony itself was simple. Reverend Collins spoke the traditional words. Sam answered, "I do," without hesitation. Abby's voice shook slightly on her own response, but the words came clear enough. "Do you have rings?" Sam reached into his pocket. Abby stared at the simple gold band he produced. "It was my mother's," he said quietly. "Eleanor wore her own family ring. This one's been waiting for..." He stopped. "It's been waiting." He slid it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "By the power vested in me by the territory of Wyoming, I pronounce you husband and wife." No kiss. Neither of them moved toward one. But Sam's hand found hers and held tight. "It's done," he said. "It's done." Martha Henderson handed Lily back to Abby, her eyes suspiciously bright. "You make a beautiful family," she said. "Whatever anyone else says." "Thank you for being here," Abby replied, "for standing with us." "We'll stand with you at the hearing too." John Henderson stepped forward, his expression serious. "Whatever Mrs. Ashworth throws at you, you won't face it alone." They left Pine Ridge as husband and wife. The ring on Abby's finger caught the afternoon sunlight. Strange how something so small could change so much. The hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. 5 days to prepare. 5 days of working side by side, falling into rhythms that felt increasingly natural. 5 days of Lily growing stronger, her laughter filling the cabin, her tiny hands reaching for both of them with equal eagerness. 5 days of Sam watching Abby when he thought she wasn't looking. 5 days of Abby wondering what it might mean if those looks were more than gratitude. On the 4th night, Hannah Carter arrived with news. "Mrs. Ashworth knows about the wedding." Hannah's voice was tight with worry. "She's furious. Says it proves you're guilty of what she accused you of." "How does getting married prove guilt?" Sam demanded. "She's saying you only married to make your arrangement look respectable, that it's a fraud designed to deceive the judge." "It ain't fraud, it's legal." "I know, but she's got new witnesses lined up. People willing to testify about Mrs. McCrae's character, about things that happened in Dusty Creek." Abby's stomach dropped. "What things?" Hannah wouldn't meet her eyes. "Mrs. Ashworth found the midwife who attended your first pregnancy. She's going to testify that you caused the miscarriage, that your body was too—" Hannah stopped. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Too fat." Abby's voice came out flat. "She's going to say I killed my own baby because I'm too fat." "Abigail." Sam moved toward her. "No." She held up a hand. "Let me think." She crossed to Lily's cradle, looked down at the baby who was now thriving because of her. Because of this body Mrs. Ashworth claimed was unfit for motherhood. "Let them say it." "What?" "Let them say whatever they want about my body, about my past, about the baby I lost." Abby turned to face Sam and Hannah. "Because when that judge looks at Lily healthy growing alive, he'll see the truth. My body kept this baby alive when everyone else's respectability would have let her die." Sam's expression shifted. Pride, maybe, or something deeper. "You're sure you want to face that, having your loss paraded in front of strangers?" "I've been carrying that loss in secret for 2 years. Maybe it's time to carry it in the light." The morning of the hearing dawned hot and still. They arrived at the Pine Ridge trading post to find a crowd already gathered. Mrs. Ashworth sat in the front row with her 2 sons flanking her like bodyguards. Behind them, a collection of Dusty Creek's most respectable citizens whispered and pointed. Judge William Hartley was a lean man in his 60s, his face weathered by decades of frontier justice. He studied the room with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This hearing will come to order." His voice cut through the murmuring. "We're here to examine the petition filed by Mrs. Cordelia Ashworth regarding the welfare of one Lily McCrae, infant daughter of Samuel McCrae." He turned to Mrs. Ashworth. "You may present your case." Mrs. Ashworth stood, her posture rigid with righteous certainty. "Your Honor, I come before you today not as an enemy of Mr. McCrae, but as a concerned citizen. This innocent child is being raised in an environment of moral corruption by a woman wholly unfit for motherhood. And what makes Mrs. McCrae unfit?" "Several things, Your Honor." Mrs. Ashworth consulted her notes. "First, she was unable to carry her own child to term. The midwife who attended her will testify that the miscarriage was a direct result of Mrs. McCrae's physical condition." "Her physical condition?" "Her excessive weight." "Your Honor, her body was incapable of supporting a pregnancy. A woman who cannot produce her own child should not be entrusted with someone else's." Abby felt Sam tense beside her. She put a hand on his arm. "Wait. Second," Mrs. Ashworth continued, "there are serious questions about the death of her first husband. Thomas Thornton fell down a mine shaft shortly after their child was lost. Many believe his death was not accidental. Objection. Sam was on his feet. That's slander. The sheriff ruled it an accident. Sit down, Mr. McCrae. Judge Hartley's voice was calm. You'll have your chance to respond. Sam sat, his jaw clenched. Third, and perhaps most damning. Mrs. Ashworth's voice rose. Mrs. McCrae moved into Mr. McCrae's home as an unmarried woman. She lived there for weeks before their hasty marriage, a marriage clearly designed to circumvent this very hearing. Is that all? One final point. Your Honor, we have testimony that Mrs. McCrae forced herself into the situation, that she inserted herself into Mr. McCrae's crisis, uninvited, possibly having designed the entire scenario for her own benefit. What benefit would that be? A wealthy rancher, Your Honor. Land, security, a ready-made family to replace the one she destroyed. The crowd murmured approval. Abby kept her face still, her hands steady, but inside something was building, something that had been buried for 2 years. Your witness may testify, Judge Hartley said. The midwife, Mrs. Greer, took the stand. Tell us about Mrs. McCrae's pregnancy. It was difficult from the start. Mrs. Greer's voice was thin with age but steady. The woman was too heavy. Her body couldn't handle the strain. I warned her, but she didn't listen. And the miscarriage? Inevitable. Women built like her aren't meant for bearing children. Thank you, Mrs. Greer. Thomas Green took the stand next. I knew Thomas Thornton. Good man. Loved his wife despite... He paused meaningfully. Despite everything. After the baby died, he wasn't the same. Started talking about how he couldn't live with the failure. What failure? Marrying her. He said it to me directly. Said he'd made a terrible mistake. Abby felt the words like physical blows. Thomas had never said that. Had he? She'd believed he loved her. She'd believed Sam's hand found hers under the table. She held on. More witnesses followed. The baker's wife testifying about Abby's isolation and strange behavior. A church elder questioning the morality of a woman who'd thrown herself at a grieving widower. Mrs. Patterson from the boarding house describing how Abby had lured Sam to her room. Each testimony twisted the truth into something unrecognizable. Each witness painted a picture of a predatory woman who'd exploited tragedy for personal gain. Finally, Mrs. Ashworth delivered her closing statement. Your Honor, this child deserves better. She deserves a proper family with a mother who can actually care for her, not a woman who killed her own baby and drove her husband to suicide. The words hit Abby like a slap. She was on her feet before she knew she was moving. That's a lie. Mrs. McCrae, Judge Hartley started. I did not kill my baby. Abby's voice rang through the room. I wanted him more than anything in this world. I would have given my own life for his. He came too early because his lungs weren't developed. The midwife said so. The doctor confirmed it. It had nothing to do with my body. Sit down, Mrs. McCrae. No. She couldn't stop now. Couldn't go back to silence. You want to know about my body? This body that Mrs. Ashworth says is unfit for motherhood. She moved to where Lily lay in Martha Henderson's arms. This body has been feeding this child for nearly a month. My milk, my nourishment. Every few hours, day and night, this body has been keeping Lily alive. She took Lily from Martha, held her up for the room to see. Look at her. Look at this healthy, thriving baby. 3 weeks ago she was dying. Her own mother was dead. Every respectable woman in Dusty Creek turned away when her father begged for help. Her eyes found Mrs. Ashworth. You laughed. You actually laughed when he fell to his knees begging someone to save his daughter. You suggested he ask me as a joke, as an insult. That's not... I was there. I heard you. Abby's voice grew stronger. You wanted her to die rather than let someone you disapproved of save her. That's the morality you're here to defend. Judge Hartley leaned forward. Mrs. Ashworth, is this true? I merely pointed out that the Thornton woman might be available since no respectable person. Available to save a dying baby, which she did. Your Honor, that doesn't change her history. Let Mrs. McCrae finish. The judge's voice was sharp. You've had your say. Now she gets hers. Abby steadied herself. My husband died 18 months ago. I was 4 months pregnant when they brought me his wedding ring and $50 for his life. The shock took my baby 3 days later. Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. Thomas didn't kill himself because of me. He fell. It was ruled an accident. But even if he had... She swallowed hard. That wouldn't be my fault either. People make their own choices. I couldn't control what happened to him any more than I could control what happened to our son. She looked around the room. You all decided I was cursed, unworthy, untouchable. You pushed me into a corner and kept me there for 2 years, and when a baby was dying and her father needed help, you turned away. Every single one of you. Her gaze landed on Thomas Green. Thomas Thornton never said he regretted marrying me. He told me he loved me every day until the day he died. You lied under oath, Mr. Green. You lied to help destroy a family that's already lost so much. Green's face went red. Now wait just a... Mrs. McCrae. Judge Hartley's voice cut through. Do you have witnesses to support your version of events? I do. Hannah Carter stood. Every eye in the room turned to her. Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Ashworth's voice was silk over steel. How lovely to see you. I didn't realize you were testifying for this woman. I'm testifying for the truth. Hannah's voice shook, but she didn't sit down. I was there that day in the market square. I saw everything. What did you see? I saw Mr. McCrae come into town with a dying baby. I saw him beg every woman there for help. I saw... She stopped, her eyes filling with tears. I saw my husband pull a gun on him. I saw Mrs. Ashworth laugh and suggest he ask the fat widow as a cruel joke. I never... You did. Hannah's voice grew stronger. And then I watched Mrs. Thornton, Mrs. McCrae, walk across that square with her head held high. I watched her offer to help when everyone else refused. I watched her give up everything to save a baby she didn't even know. She turned to face the judge directly. That's not the action of a predator, Your Honor. That's the action of a mother. Maybe not by blood, but by every choice that matters. The room had gone silent. Judge Hartley studied the crowd before him, the respectable citizens of Dusty Creek, the accused woman holding a healthy baby, the young mother who'd broken ranks to tell the truth. I've heard enough. He stood. This petition is based on gossip, prejudice, and outright lies. I find no evidence that Lily McCrae is in any danger. To the contrary, she appears to be thriving under Mrs. McCrae's care. Mrs. Ashworth rose. Your Honor, the propriety of... The McCraes are legally married. Their household is in order. Their child is healthy. Judge Hartley's voice hardened. What I see here is a community that would rather destroy an innocent family than admit they were wrong about a woman they decided to hate. He gathered his papers. Petition denied. And Mrs. Ashworth, if you file another frivolous claim against this family, I'll hold you in contempt. He walked out without looking back. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Sam's arms were around Abby, and Lily was laughing between them, and Hannah was crying, and somewhere in the crowd, Mrs. Ashworth was demanding to know what had just happened. It's over, Sam whispered against Abby's hair. We won. We won. But even as she said it, Abby knew this was only the beginning. The ride home felt different. Sam sat close beside her on the wagon seat, his shoulder brushing hers with every bump in the road. What you said in there, he started. I meant every word. I know you did. He was quiet for a moment. Eleanor would have liked you. You think so? I know so. She didn't have patience for people who let the world push them around. She would have respected what you did today. Abby leaned into his warmth. What happens now? Now we go home. We raise our daughter. We build something real. Our daughter. The words settled into Abby's heart like seeds taking root. Sam. Yeah. Thank you. For believing in me. For fighting for us. His arm came around her shoulders, pulling her close. Thank you for being worth fighting for. They rode the rest of the way in comfortable silence. When the cabin came into view, Abby saw it differently than she had before. Not a stranger's house. Not a temporary refuge. Home. The weeks following the hearing passed like water finding its course. Abby fell into the rhythm of the ranch without conscious effort. Rising before dawn to feed Lily. Making breakfast while Sam tended the animals. Working side by side through the long summer days until exhaustion pulled them both toward sleep. But something had shifted between them. She caught Sam watching her more often now, his eyes following her movements across the cabin, his hand finding reasons to brush against hers. And she found herself watching him too. You're staring, Sam said one evening, not looking up from the harness he was mending. So were you, earlier. His hands stilled. I was. The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Sam, I know what we agreed. He set down the harness, finally meeting her eyes. Partnership, convenience, nothing more than what was necessary for Lily. That is what we agreed. Is it still what you want? The question hit Abby like a punch to the chest. I don't know. Sam stood across the room to where she sat with Lily drowsing in her arms. Can I tell you something? Of course. When Eleanor died, I thought that was it. Thought I'd used up whatever capacity I had for caring about someone that way. Thought the part of me that could feel those things died with her. He crouched beside the rocking chair, his face level with hers. I was wrong. Abby's breath caught. Sam, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. His voice roughened. Every morning I wake up grateful you're here. Every night I go to sleep knowing Lily's safe because of you. And somewhere along the way, gratitude turned into something else. What else? I don't have Eleanor's way with words. Never did. He reached out, touched her face with calloused fingers. But I know what I feel. And I know it ain't just partnership anymore. Lily stirred between them, making soft sounds in her sleep. I'm scared, Abby whispered. Of what? Of believing this is real. Of letting myself want something that might be taken away. Her voice cracked. I've already lost everything once, Sam. I don't know if I could survive losing it again. You won't lose us. You can't promise that. No. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But I can promise I'll fight like hell to keep you. Fight harder than I've ever fought for anything. Why? Because you're worth fighting for. Because Lily needs you. Because... He stopped, seemed to gather himself. Because I'm falling in love with you, Abigail McCrae. And that scares me too. The words landed between them like a stone dropped into still water. Abby stared at him. You love me. I'm getting there. Faster than I expected. Almost a smile crossed his face. Turns out watching a woman save your daughter's life and then rebuild your whole household is pretty attractive. Despite everything, Abby laughed. I must look a sight, covered in flour half the time, milk stains on everything I own. You look like home. The simplicity of it undid her. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. Hey! Hey! Sam's voice gentled. I didn't mean to make you cry. These aren't sad tears. Abby wiped her face with her free hand. No one's ever said you look like home. Wanted me. Not despite how I look, but including it. Just wanted me. All of me. Sam's expression shifted into something fierce. Then every man who ever looked at you was a fool. He leaned forward, pressed his lips to her forehead. Gentle. Reverent. I see you, Abigail. The real you. and I like what I see." Lily chose that moment to wake fully, her cries cutting through the tender moment. Sam pulled back, but his eyes stayed on Abby's face. "We should get her fed." "Yes. And then we should talk. Really talk. About what this means. What we want." Sam nodded. "I'd like that." He stood, moved toward the door. "Sam," he turned, "I'm getting there too." Abby's voice was soft, but steady. "The falling part. Just in case you were wondering." His smile was the brightest thing she'd seen all day. The conversation happened that night after Lily was asleep, and the cabin had settled into quiet. They sat on the porch, side by side, watching stars emerge over the mountains. "Tell me about Thomas," Sam said. "The real him. Not what those liars said at the hearing." Abby was quiet for a moment. "He was kind, patient. The first man who ever looked at me and saw something worth courting." "How did you meet?" "At a church social in Kansas City. I was 17, already bigger than most girls my age. Already used to being overlooked." She smiled at the memory. "Thomas walked straight past all the pretty girls and asked me to dance. Smart man." "I thought it was a joke at first. Some cruel prank his friends had put him up to." Her smile faded. "I actually refused. Told him I knew what he was doing and he could find someone else to mock." "What did he say?" "He said, 'Miss, I ain't mocking anyone. I just noticed you're the only woman here who looks like she'd rather be reading a book than dancing, and I figured we might have something in common.'" Sam laughed softly. He was right. We talked for 3 hours that night. About books, philosophy, the meaning of life. He didn't care that I wasn't pretty. He cared that I could think. "Sounds like a good man." "He was." Abby's voice thickened. "We married 6 months later. Moved west because he believed there was more opportunity out here. Settled in Dusty Creek because the mining company was hiring. And then I got pregnant. We were so happy, Sam. We had such plans." She stopped, steadied herself. "When the baby died, something in Thomas broke. Not because of me, whatever those people said at the hearing, but because he'd wanted a child so badly. Because he'd already named him, built him a cradle. The fall was an accident. I have to believe that. I have to believe he just lost his footing, that the grief made him careless, that it wasn't—" Her voice broke. "That he didn't choose to leave me." Sam's hand found hers in the darkness. "Even if he did, that wouldn't be your fault." "My head knows that. My heart takes longer to learn." They sat in silence for a while, hands linked to the night sound surrounding them. "Eleanor knew she might die," Sam said finally. "Having Lily, I mean. The midwife warned us early on that it would be dangerous, that she was too small, the baby too big. She chose to have her anyway. She said every child deserved a chance at life, that she'd rather give Lily that chance than protect herself." His voice roughened. "I tried to talk her out of it, begged her to think about what would happen if something went wrong." "What did she say?" "She said, 'Sam McCrae, I'm going to bring this baby into the world, and we're both going to be fine. And if we're not, you'd better make sure she knows how much I loved her.'" "She sounds brave." "She was. Braver than me." He squeezed Abby's hand. "She fought for 3 days before Lily was born. 3 days of labor that would have killed most women in the first few hours. She held on just long enough to see Lily's face, to name her, to tell me—" His voice cracked. "To tell you what? That she loved me. That I was going to be a good father. That I shouldn't—" He stopped, cleared his throat. "That I shouldn't close myself off. That she wanted me to find happiness again, even if it wasn't with her." "She gave you permission." "She tried to. I didn't want it. Didn't think I'd ever need it." Sam turned to face Abby in the darkness. "But here you are. And here I am. And I think maybe Eleanor knew something I didn't." "What's that?" "That love doesn't run out. that there's room for more than one person in a heart, that honoring the dead doesn't mean refusing to live. Abby felt tears building again. I've been so afraid. Of what? Of taking her place, of wearing her clothes, sitting in her chair raising her daughter, of becoming a replacement for someone I can never live up to. You're not a replacement. Sam's voice was firm. You're not filling Eleanor's shoes. You're wearing your own shoes, walking your own path. It just happens to intersect with mine. How can you be sure? Because when I look at you, I don't see Eleanor's ghost. I see Abigail. I see a woman who walked into a hostile crowd to save a stranger's baby. I see someone who rebuilt my household and my hope at the same time. I see— He stopped, seemed to struggle for words. I see my wife. Not because of any legal paper, but because of who you are. Abby's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. Sam. Yes. Kiss me. He went still. You sure? I'm sure. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to change her mind. She didn't. His lips met hers, gentle at first, questioning. She answered by leaning into him, her hand coming up to cup his face. The kiss deepened. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. Well, Sam said. Well, I'd say that settles things. What things? Whether this marriage is just partnership. His voice was rough, because that didn't feel like partnership to me. Abby laughed, the sound shaky but real. No, it didn't. So what do we call it now? I don't know. She leaned against his shoulder. Does it need a name? Probably not. His arm came around her. Names are for other people's benefit. We know what it is. They sat like that until the cold drove them inside, then separated at their bedroom doors with something new in their eyes. Something that felt like beginning. The first test came 3 days later. A rider appeared on the ridge, moving fast toward the cabin. Sam grabbed his rifle. Stay inside with Lily. Sam? Just until I know who it is. Abby retreated with Lily watching through the window as Sam positioned himself on the porch. The rider proved to be William Carter Hannah's husband. McCrae. He didn't dismount. We need to talk. Get off my land. Not until you hear what I have to say. Carter's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. Your wife, your new wife, has turned my Hannah against me. Hannah made her own choice. Hannah made a fool of herself in front of the whole territory, because of that woman in your house. Carter's eyes flicked toward the window. She's been nothing but trouble since the day she stepped forward in that square. That trouble saved my daughter's life. And destroyed my marriage. Sam's grip tightened on the rifle. If your marriage is destroyed, that's on you. Not Abby, not Hannah, you. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know you threatened to shoot a man begging for help. I know you kept your wife from doing the right thing. I know you've been punishing her for having a conscience. Sam's voice hardened. That ain't Abby's fault. That's yours. Carter's face went red. This ain't over, McCrae. It is if you know what's good for you. Sam raised the rifle slightly. Now get off my land before I help you off. Carter stared at him for a long moment. Then he wheeled his horse and galloped away. Sam waited until he was out of sight before lowering the rifle. Abby emerged from the cabin, Lily in her arms. What was that about? Nothing. Sam's jaw was tight. Just a fool who needs someone to blame for his own mistakes. Hannah. I'll ride to check on her tomorrow. Make sure he ain't taking his anger out on her. Sam, if my testimony caused problems for her. Your testimony told the truth. He turned to face her. Hannah chose to back it up. That was her choice, her courage. Don't take that away from her by feeling guilty. But if he hurts her, then we'll help her. Take her in if we need to, whatever it takes. Sam's expression softened. That's what family does, Abby. And Hannah's family now. She earned that. Family. The word settled into Abby's chest like a warm stone. I'll make extra food. in case she needs to come here quickly. That's my girl." The casual endearment made Abby's heart flutter. She was still getting used to this, to being wanted, to belonging, to home. Sam rode out to check on Hannah the next morning. He returned 3 hours later with news that made Abby's blood run cold. "She's gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "Packed up and left. Took her baby and caught the morning stage to Denver. Left a note for William saying she wasn't coming back. Because of what happened at the hearing. Because of what's been happening for years, according to her letter." Sam pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "She left one for you, too." Abby took it with trembling hands. "Dear Mrs. McCrae, by the time you read this, I'll be on my way to my sister's house in Denver. I couldn't stay another day in that house living with a man who thinks kindness is weakness and conscience is betrayal. What you did that day in the market square changed something in me. You showed me that there are things worth risking everything for, worth losing everything for. I hope you know how remarkable you are, how much courage it took to step forward when everyone else stepped back. I'll carry that example with me for the rest of my life. Please don't feel guilty about my marriage. It was broken long before you came along. You just gave me the courage to finally leave it. Tell Mr. McCrae thank you for protecting me. And tell Lily that somewhere out there is a woman who will always remember her as the baby worth saving. Your friend Hannah Carter." Abby read the letter twice, tears blurring the words. "She's safe." The stagecoach driver confirmed she got on the Denver route. William showed up at the station too late to stop her. He tried to stop her. Made a scene, apparently. Sheriff had to get involved. Sam's voice carried grim satisfaction. Words already spreading through the territory. His reputation's taking quite a hit. Good. The fierceness in her own voice surprised her. "That's my girl," Sam said again, and this time he followed it with a kiss. Lily watched from her cradle, gurgling happily as if approving. The summer deepened into August. Lily grew stronger every day. Her first tooth came in during a thunderstorm, her cries competing with the thunder until Abby's milk finally soothed her. She began to crawl, getting into everything requiring constant vigilance. She said her first word on a Sunday morning. Abby was feeding her in the rocking chair, singing softly the way she'd done since that first day. Lily pulled back from her breast, looked up at Abby's face and said clearly, "Mama." Abby stopped breathing. "What did you say?" "Mama." Lily reached up, patted Abby's cheek. "Mama." Sam burst through the door. "I heard, did she just—" "She called me Mama." Sam's face split into a grin so wide it transformed him. "Of course she did. What else would she call you?" I mean Eleanor. Eleanor gave her life." Sam crossed to them, crouched beside the chair. "You're giving her a life. That makes you Mama in every way that counts." Lily, pleased with the attention, said it again. "Mama, Mama." Abby laughed through her tears. "Yes, baby, I'm Mama." She looked at Sam, saw her own joy reflected in his eyes. "We're really a family. We've been a family for a while now." He kissed her forehead, then Lily's. "It just took our daughter to make it official." That night, after Lily was asleep, Sam took Abby's hand. "Come with me." "Where?" "Just come." He led her outside to the spot behind the cabin where the mountains rose against the stars. "I've been meaning to ask you something." Abby's heart stuttered. "Abigail McCrae?" Sam turned to face her, holding both her hands. "I know we're already married. I know we did it for practical reasons, legal protection keeping Lily safe. But I want—" He stopped, steadied himself. "I want to ask you properly, the way you deserve to be asked." "Sam, will you stay? Not because of the law, not because of the hearing, not because Lily needs you." His voice roughened. "Because I need you. Because I love you. Because I can't imagine facing the rest of my life without you in it." Abby stared at him. "You're proposing to your own wife." I'm asking my wife to be my wife. For real this time. Almost a smile. Is that too strange? It's perfect. She kissed him, putting everything she felt into it. Yes, she said when they finally broke apart. Yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'll be your wife. Yes to all of it. Sam pulled her close, his arms tight around her. I love you, Abigail. I love you too. Samuel McCrae. They stood under the stars holding each other, two broken people who'd somehow become whole together. Behind them, the cabin waited. Inside, their daughter slept. And ahead of them stretched a future. Neither had dared to imagine a future they would build together, one day at a time. The autumn came soft that year, painting the valley in shades of amber and gold. Lily had learned to walk by then, her small feet unsteady but determined as she toddled across the cabin floor. She called Abby Mama 100 times a day, and each time the word hit Abby's heart like a blessing she still couldn't quite believe she deserved. She's going to be a handful, Sam said, watching their daughter chase a chicken across the yard. Just like her mother. Which mother? Both. He pulled Abby close, kissed her temple. Eleanor gave her the stubbornness. You're giving her the courage. I'm giving her nothing but milk and love. That's everything, Abby. That's the whole world. She leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his body against hers. 6 months since she'd stepped forward in that market square. 6 months since she'd given up everything for a stranger's baby. 6 months that had transformed her life so completely she barely recognized the woman she'd been before. Rider coming? Sam's voice changed, the softness replaced by wariness. Abby followed his gaze to the ridge where a single figure approached on horseback. I'll get Lily inside. Wait. Sam squinted against the sun. I think that's Mrs. McCrae. The voice carried across the valley, high and excited. Hannah Carter. She rode like a woman possessed, her horse lathered with sweat, her bonnet flying behind her. Hannah. Abby ran to meet her. What's wrong? What happened? Hannah practically fell off her horse, grabbing Abby's arms to steady herself. It's Mrs. Ashworth. She's dead. The words hit like a thunderclap. What? Heart attack. Yesterday morning. Collapsed right in the middle of Sunday service. Hannah was breathing hard, her eyes wild. But that's not the important part. What could be more important than her papers, Abby? They found her papers. Sam had reached them, Lily balanced on his hip. What papers? Everything. Hannah's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. Letters, documents, proof of every lie she ever told, every family she ever destroyed. There were dozens of them. Dozens of people she went after, just like she went after you. Abby felt the ground shift beneath her feet. She kept records. She was proud of it. Called it her moral ledger. Every person she'd run out of town, every marriage she'd broken, every reputation she'd ruined. Hannah shook her head in disbelief. She wrote it all down like she was keeping score. Dear God. The sheriff has everything now. People are finally seeing what she really was. Hannah grabbed Abby's hands. But that's still not the most important part. What is? The people of Dusty Creek. They're coming here. Sam stepped forward. What do you mean coming here? To apologize. Thomas Green. Mrs. Patterson, the baker's wife. Everyone who testified against you at the hearing. They're organizing a delegation. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. They want to make things right, Abby. They finally want to make things right. Abby stared at her. I don't understand. They read Mrs. Ashworth's ledger. They saw how she manipulated them, how she fed them lies about you, about Thomas, about everything. Hannah squeezed her hands. They know the truth now, and they're ashamed. Sam's arm came around Abby's shoulders. When? Tomorrow. They'll be here tomorrow morning. Abby couldn't speak. 6 months of exile. 2 years before that. 4 years of being invisible, unwanted, judged unworthy of basic human kindness. And now they wanted to apologize. Abby. Sam's voice was gentle. You don't have to see them if you don't want to. I know. Whatever you decide, I'll support it. I know that too. She looked at Lily playing with the buttons on Sam's shirt, completely unaware of the emotional storm swirling around her. I'll see them. You sure? I'm sure. Abby straightened her spine. Not because they deserve forgiveness, because I deserve to look them in the eye and let them see what they almost destroyed. Sam's grip tightened. That's my girl. They arrived the next morning. 3 wagons carrying nearly a dozen people. Thomas Green led the procession, his hat in his hands, his face carved with shame. Abby stood on the porch, Sam beside her, Lily in her arms. She didn't move to greet them. Let them come to her. Thomas Green approached first, stopping at the bottom of the porch steps. Mrs. McCrae. Mr. Green. He stopped, swallowed. I don't know how to begin. You could start with the truth. It's been in short supply. He flinched. You're right. You're absolutely right. He looked down at his boots. Everything I said at that hearing was a lie. Thomas Thornton never said he regretted marrying you. I made it up because Mrs. Ashworth told me to. Because she said it was for the good of the community. The good of the community. I know how that sounds now. I know there's no excuse. His voice cracked. I watched Thomas work the mines for 2 years. He talked about you constantly. About how lucky he was. About how you were the best thing that ever happened to him. Abby's throat tightened. Why didn't you say that at the hearing? Because I was scared. Because Mrs. Ashworth had power, and going against her meant losing everything. My business, my standing, my family's place in the community. He finally looked up, his eyes wet. I chose my comfort over your future. I chose safety over truth. And I am so deeply, deeply sorry. The words hung in the air. That sorry doesn't give me back 2 years of being invisible. It doesn't erase what you said about me in front of a judge. It doesn't undo the damage. I know. So what exactly are you hoping to get from this apology? Thomas Green stood silent for a long moment. Nothing. His voice was quiet. I'm not hoping to get anything. I just needed you to know that I see what I did now. That I understand the cost. Whether you forgive me or not, that's your choice. But you deserve to hear the truth from my mouth. Abby studied his face. She saw genuine remorse there, genuine shame. It didn't heal anything. It didn't change the past. But it was something. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for listening. He stepped back, and Mrs. Patterson took his place. The boarding house owner looked smaller than Abby remembered, shrunken somehow, as if the revelation of Mrs. Ashworth's true nature had deflated something essential in her. Mrs. McCrae, I charged you double rent for 2 years. I called you improper. I threw you out of your home for helping a dying baby. I remember. I was following Mrs. Ashworth's instructions. She told me you were dangerous, that keeping you isolated was protecting the community. Mrs. Patterson's voice shook. I believed her. I wanted to believe her because believing her meant I didn't have to think for myself. And now I see that I was a coward, that I hurt someone who never did anything to deserve it. She pulled something from her pocket, a small leather pouch. This is every extra dollar I charged you, plus interest. It won't undo what I did, but I want you to have it back. Abby stared at the pouch. Keep it. What? I don't want your money, Mrs. Patterson. I don't need it. Abby's voice was steady. What I needed 2 years ago was kindness, a fair price, someone to see me as a person rather than a problem to be managed. You couldn't give me that then. You can't buy it back now. Mrs. Patterson's face crumpled. Then what can I do? How can I make this right? You can't. Abby let the truth settle. But you can do better for the next person, the next widow, the next woman who doesn't fit your idea of acceptable. You can choose to see them instead of looking away. I will. I swear I will. Then that's enough. One by one they came. The baker's wife, the church elder, the women who'd laughed in the market square, each offering apologies that ranged from genuine to self-serving, from tearful to perfunctory. Abby listened to all of them. She forgave none of them. But she let them speak. Let them see her. Let them understand exactly what their silence and cruelty had cost. By the time the last wagon pulled away, Abby's legs were trembling with exhaustion. Sam caught her before she could fall. You did good. I don't feel good. I feel... She searched for the word. Empty. That makes sense. You've been carrying their judgment for years. Now it's gone. He guided her to the rocking chair, settled her into it. Takes time to learn how to stand without that weight. I thought it would feel better. Finally being vindicated. Does it feel bad? It feels like nothing. Abby looked down at Lily, who'd fallen asleep against her chest. All those years of being invisible. All that pain. And for what? Because one woman needed someone to destroy. Because good people let her. That's almost worse. It is worse. Sam crouched beside her. Evil people do evil things. That's expected. But when good people stand by and watch, that's what makes it possible. So, what do? We don't stand by. Ever. When we see something wrong, we step forward. He touched her face. Like you did, in that market square, when it mattered most. I was terrified. You were brave. There's a difference. Abby leaned into his touch. I love you, Sam McCrae. I love you too, Abby McCrae. Lily stirred between them, her small voice mumbling in her sleep. Mama. Abby's heart swelled. Always, baby girl. I'll always be your mama. The winter came harder than expected. Snow buried the valley by early December, cutting them off from the outside world. Sam had prepared well. The larder was full firewood stacked high, the animals secured in the barn. But nothing could have prepared them for what came next. Abby woke one morning with a rolling nausea that sent her running for the chamber pot. Abby! Sam's voice was thick with sleep. What's wrong? I don't... Another wave hit her. When she finally stopped retching, she sat back on her heels, her mind racing. The nausea, the exhaustion that had been plaguing her for weeks, the tenderness in her breasts that she'd attributed to still nursing Lily. Oh my God! Abby, what is it? She looked up at Sam, her eyes wide. I think I'm pregnant. The words fell between them like stones. Sam went completely still. You think you're... I've felt this before. With... She stopped, her hand moving to her stomach. I know what it feels like. But you said I thought after what happened. I didn't think I could. Her voice shook. The midwife said I probably couldn't. After losing the first one, after all the bleeding. Sam was beside her in an instant, pulling her into his arms. Hey, breathe. I'm scared, Sam. I'm so scared. I know. What if I can't carry it? What if my body, what if they were right about me? They weren't right about anything. His voice was fierce. Your body kept Lily alive when she was dying. Your body has been strong and capable every single day since you came here. Whatever happens, whatever comes next, I believe in you. But, no buts. He pulled back to look at her face. We'll get the doctor from Pine Ridge. We'll do everything right, and we'll face whatever comes together. What if I lose this one too? Then we'll grieve together, and we'll heal together, and we'll try again if you want to. He kissed her forehead. But I don't believe we're going to lose anyone. I believe this baby is meant to be. Abby clung to him. How can you be so sure? Because you deserve good things, Abby McCrae, and I intend to spend the rest of my life making sure you get them. The pregnancy progressed without incident. The doctor from Pine Ridge confirmed it in January, pronouncing Abby healthy and the baby strong. Given your history, Dr. Morrison said carefully, I'd recommend rest. No heavy lifting, plenty of food and water. She'll get all of that, Sam said firmly. I can still work. You can still do whatever doesn't strain your body. Sam's voice was gentle but unyielding. I'll hire help if needed. I'll do the heavy work myself. But you are going to take care of yourself and this baby. He's right, the doctor agreed. Your first pregnancy ended due to trauma and shock, not physical incapability. There's no reason to expect the same outcome this time. No reason. None at all. You're healthy, Mrs. McCrae. Your body is more than capable of carrying this child. The words hit Abby like a revelation. Capable. Not inadequate. Not wrong. Not cursed. Capable. She'd spent years believing the lies Dusty Creek had told her about herself, believing that her body was the problem, that her size was the reason for her losses. But it had never been true. Thank you, doctor. Take care of yourself, Mrs. McCrae. I'll check in again next month. After he left, Abby sat in the rocking chair, her hands on her still flat stomach. It wasn't me. What? The first baby. Everyone said it was my fault. My body. My weight. But it wasn't. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It was never me. Sam knelt beside her. I could have told you that. I needed to hear it from someone else. Someone with authority. She shook her head. All these years. All this shame. And it was all lies. The world tells a lot of lies, Abby. Especially to women who don't fit its expectations. I believed them. Of course you did. You heard them from everyone every day for years. He took her hands. But now you know the truth. Your body isn't broken. Your body is giving us another child. Another child. A brother or sister for Lily. A new life. His smile was brighter than the winter sun. Our family is growing. Abby laughed through her tears. Our family. Our family. Spring came early that year. The snow melted, the creek swelled, and Abby's belly grew round with promise. Lily, now walking confidently, spent hours talking to the baby through Abby's stomach. She'd press her small hands against the stretched fabric of Abby's dress and babble in the language of toddlers, convinced she was having meaningful conversations. She's going to be jealous, Sam worried. When the baby comes. She's going to be a wonderful big sister. You're sure? Look at her. Abby watched Lily kiss her belly for the 100th time that day. She already loves this baby. She doesn't know how to be jealous of someone she loves. She gets that from you. She gets that from both of us. The labor started on a May morning with birdsong filling the valley and wildflowers blooming along the creek. Dr. Morrison arrived within hours, having been summoned by a ranch hand Sam had hired specifically for this purpose. Everything looks normal, the doctor said after his examination. The baby's positioned well. It shouldn't be long now. It wasn't long. 7 hours later, Abby held her son in her arms. He's perfect. Sam's voice broke on the word. God, Abby, he's perfect. He is. The baby had dark hair like Sam, but his eyes, when they finally opened, were Abby's green. What should we name him? Abby looked at her husband, at the man who'd given her everything she'd stopped believing she deserved. Thomas. After the man who first showed me, I was worth loving. Sam nodded slowly. Thomas McCrae. Tommy for short. Tommy. Abby pressed a kiss to her son's forehead. Welcome to the world, baby boy. Lily appeared at the bedside, her eyes wide with wonder. Baby. Yes, sweetheart. This is your brother. His name is Tommy. Lily reached out, touched the baby's tiny hand with one careful finger. My Tommy. Your Tommy, Abby agreed. Your brother. Lily beamed. I teach him walk. When he's bigger, yes, You can teach him everything." Sam gathered all of them into his arms, Abby, Lily, Tommy, holding his family close. "I love you," he whispered. "All of you. More than I ever knew I could love anyone." "I love you too." Abby leaned into him. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. That day in the market square when everyone else looked away, you saw me. You saw me first." His voice was rough. "You saw a desperate man with a dying baby, and you didn't look away. You stepped forward. Best decision I ever made." "Mine too." The years that followed were marked by ordinary blessings. Tommy learned to walk, then run, then ride. Lily grew into a fierce, compassionate girl who defended smaller children on the schoolyard and brought home every injured animal she found. The ranch prospered, the valley filled with laughter. Hannah Carter visited every summer, bringing her own growing family. The friendship between the two women deepened into something unbreakable. And Abby finally stopped waiting for happiness to be taken away. She stood on the porch one autumn evening watching her children chase fireflies in the yard while Sam repaired a fence post nearby. Tommy was 7 now, Lily nearly 9, and Abby was expecting again, their third child, their second miracle. Sam caught her watching him and smiled that slow, genuine smile that still made her heart skip after all these years. "What are you thinking about? That day in the market square. The worst day of my life. The best day of mine." He crossed to her, took her hands. "The best. The day I stopped being invisible. The day I chose to matter." She squeezed his fingers. "The day I found my family." "Mama." Tommy's voice carried across the yard. "Mama. I caught a firefly." "Bring it here, baby. Let me see." He ran to her, cupping the tiny light in his hands, his face glowing with joy. Lily followed, already explaining the proper way to release fireflies without harming them. Sam wrapped his arm around Abby's waist, pulling her close as their children gathered around. "This is what matters," he said quietly. "This right here. This family. This love. Everything else, the gossip, the judgment, the people who tried to destroy us, it all fades away. But this lasts." "This lasts," Abby agreed. She looked at her children, at her husband, at the home they'd built from the ashes of their separate griefs. She thought about the invisible woman she'd been selling bread in a corner of the market square, believing she deserved nothing more than survival. She thought about stepping forward when everyone else stepped back. She thought about courage and worth and the fierce power of choosing yourself when the world says you don't deserve to be chosen. "Mama." Lily's voice cut through her reverie. "Are you crying?" "Happy tears, sweetheart, just happy tears." "Why are you happy?" Abby looked at her daughter. Eleanor's daughter, her daughter, their daughter, and smiled. "Because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. With exactly the people I'm supposed to be with." She pulled Lily into a hug, Tommy squirming in between them. "Because I have everything I ever wanted, and more than I ever dared to dream." Sam's hand found hers. Lily giggled. Tommy released his firefly into the evening air. And Abby Thornton McCrae, the woman Dusty Creek had called worthless, the woman whose body had been deemed unfit, the woman who had stepped forward when an entire town stepped back, finally understood the truth she'd been learning all along. Worth was not granted by others. Worth was not earned through suffering. Worth was claimed, chosen, built with daily acts of courage and love. And she was worth everything. She had always been worth everything. The firefly rose into the darkening sky, its light pulsing against the stars. A family stood together on a porch in a beautiful valley. And somewhere in the distance, a future stretched out before them, full of possibility, full of promise, full of the kind of love that transforms broken things into something whole. This was not just survival. This was living. This was home.